sometimes doing these types of activities, um, you get effects that are not conventional. They're not happening in a conventional way, like that sense of the whole field, for example, opening up and other resources coming in, but they happen. Okay, so now we're going to do a Feldenkrais lesson, and just to give you a little bit more background of what a Feldenkrais lesson is, it's a form of movement education developed by an Israeli physicist in the last century, Moshe Feldenkrais, who was a martial artist, particularly in judo, and an athlete, also a physicist. And he developed this method partly through working with his own injuries, which he didn't get a lot of possibilities in a traditional medical way, knee injuries in particular. And he was onto something that has in this century become more widely known and studied, which is neuroplasticity. That is the brain's ability, the brain-body system, really, not just the brain, to keep changing and to keep growing and to keep remapping its own possibilities. In other words, the learning that can occur somatically can just keep going on throughout an entire lifetime. People used to assume, you topped out at an late 20s, 30s in some ways in terms of that, but now it's seen as a lifelong process. So the Feldenkrais method has two forms, a hands-on form and what we're doing today, which is called awareness through movement, in which you're using movement to become aware of how you organize your perceptions, your sense of movement, your basically your whole sense of embodiment in the field of gravity. We're always pretty much, except when we're out into the dream realm, navigating, doing things, taking actions, not taking actions in this gravitational field. So he became very interested in that whole process of development, which you can see, with babies and children, how they keep developing who they are through their movement in the world, the way they map themselves into the world. So this method allows you to keep understanding, learning, remapping, developing new possibilities in how you perceive and how you act through movement. The movement is useful, but Feldenkrais used to always say the movement is just the vehicle. What he's really interested is learning how we learn. That is learning about your own process, learning how you organize perception and action. That's the key. And that's what Feldenkrais method does. Now, the thing about it is it's not exercise. It's different from exercise in that the goal is education. So when you're doing the movements, we'll do a couple lessons today, um, you do less than you could do because if you do too much, it's like you create a lot of noise in your system. So we want to slow it down so you can experience how you move and also um, get a sense of what's enough when you're doing something. Often we overexert ourselves, we injure ourselves by trying too quickly to get to the end of something, to go for a goal. We're always taught in society, do more, work harder, keep trying to achieve the goal. But in this method, it's just the opposite. Do less, notice how you're doing what you do, find what is comfortable, what's interesting, what feels good. Let that be the message that's communicated across your entire system, the whole field of yourself. Kind of what we did with the opening meditation. The Feldenkrais method will put you in touch with that entire field in terms of how it organizes itself. Okay, none of this is necessary to understand, actually, to do the method, but I thought I'd add some context just to explain it a little bit. But we're just going to do it. And really, the doing of it is all you really need. All the rest of it, it doesn't matter. And as you do these lessons, um, if something doesn't feel comfortable, make the movement smaller until it feels comfortable. That is really essential. There should be no discomfort when you do this. If there is, keep making the movement smaller and smaller and smaller. And if there's still discomfort, then just imagine doing the movement. So it'll still work if you imagine doing the movement, or you just do 1% of the movement. You'll still get the benefit. That's the beauty of it. The other thing is pause and stop whenever you want, even if I'm giving directions and we're going on. Really sense how your system likes to engage. Like, what's the rhythm for you of enoughness, of doing enough? That's really key. So you're really being aware of, attentive to your own process. And then the other thing is we'll be resting whenever periodically. Resting is equally important to absorb what you're doing. And the last thing is if you can bring the movements in touch with your breathing, that'll be even better. And you'll hear me reminding you throughout of all of this, but this is just as you enter into it. Okay, I think that's probably enough talking of that. So we'll start. I don't know, is everybody able to lie down here? Is that a possibility? Does anybody not raise your hand if you can't lie down? Or you can, okay, good. Lying down is a possibility. All right, so get in a comfortable position lying down on your back. If you need to have a little something under your head, that's okay. If it's uncomfortable to have your legs outstretched, you can have your knees up and feet flat. The key here is get into a position where you feel comfortable, whatever that is. So really paying attention to your comfort is so key because that's going to optimize your learning. And when you're lying down, now that you're aware of that sense of occupying, inhabiting the field of yourself, just notice the presence of the field of yourself, however that appears, in whatever way you experience that. And notice if any region of yourself is being highlighted in or as awareness. That might be the case. It might not be the case. You're just noticing what's present, what's presenting itself in this whole field of yourself, which you know has density of sensation, but also openness, space. Maybe you're making small adjustments to be a little bit more comfortable. Whatever you notice is fine. And then become aware of the natural rhythm of your breathing. Simply resting in the inhalation and the exhalation. And with each exhalation, allowing all of yourself to be supported by the surface that you're lying on. Really, it's like you're just naturally giving your weight, your muscles, your bones, your tissue, you're just giving it over to being supported by the surface that you're lying on. With each exhalation. And as you do this, you might feel yourself shifting once again, even without moving, of maybe the sense of spreading out or a sense of depth to yourself. that reveals itself as you feel the support of the surface that you're lying on. And then we'll get a sense of how it is now at the beginning of the lesson by creating a kind of map. So if you imagine that you've been dipped into a bottle of ink, of dark ink, and you're lying here is like lying on a white page of paper, what kind of ink impression would you be creating? Where would there be dark ink and where would there be lighter spaces or no ink at all? Again, whatever you notice is just fine. Maybe you notice that one side is more mapped with ink than the other. That's fine. Or maybe you notice one side of your hips or one shoulder is closer to the surface than the other. Or maybe even one side of yourself is closer to the surface you're lying on. Just getting a sense of that. And then bring your knees up so your feet are flat and your knees point towards the ceiling. Find a comfortable position for your legs so they can stand independently. If that's hard, it's okay however you have them, but if they can stand independently. And position your feet so that you have a sense of comfort in your hip joints. So you might need to shift them around a little. That's fine. And then particularly feel the new presence of the pressure contact when you did that. That changed things a little. And then slowly tilt your legs a little bit to the left and then come back to the middle. But slowly, again, this isn't a stretch. It's just to feel what's it like to tilt your legs to the left, how that changes the pressure contact on your hips a little more to the left side. And again, the size of the movement doesn't matter. You can tilt them an inch, you can tilt them 5 inches. You're just tilting the legs to the left, feeling the change of pressure contact on your hips, feeling the change of pressure contact in your feet and anywhere else in yourself. And what's a comfortable range to tilt your legs over to the left and then easily be able to reverse back and come to the center and pause? And simply noticing how the tilting of your legs affects other regions of yourself. So you're finding a light, easy range of the tilting, using less effort. Again, that works for you. You find a pace for doing this, a range that feels comfortable. Maybe that's even interesting to you. And then you come back. And just a few times, noticing the changes of pressure contact, particularly in your hips and your feet. And then coming back to the center and just pausing for a moment. And then tilting your legs a little over to the right side. And coming back to the center. And just doing this side and feeling the change of pressure contact on the right side of your hips and the change of pressure contact in your feet as you tilt to the right and come back. Maybe tilting to this side is different than the other side. Maybe it's the same. You're just checking it out. And then come back to the center and just pause for a moment. And then combine the directions of tilting to both sides. And noticing the sensations, the quality of the movement, all the way through the path of the movement. As you tilt to the left, you'll feel the changing pressure contact in your hips and your feet and other regions of yourself. And then coming back through the middle, and then feeling that, and going to the other side and noticing the changing pressure contact as you go to the other side throughout different parts of yourself. So you're tilting, finding a pace and rhythm that feels good, less effort, and noticing how this tilting of your legs affects these other regions of yourself. You might notice other regions in your ribs or your spine being affected, or your shoulders, or your legs. So in a certain sense, the simple action of just tilting your legs is communicating with these other regions of yourself. And as you tilt the legs, notice if you can accommodate this movement into the natural rhythm of your breathing. So that the breath and the movement, in a way, support each other. Usually, when you accommodate a movement, a pattern of action into the natural rhythm of your breathing, something will become a little easier, maybe, or certainly feel a little better. It just feels like you're having a little less of a struggle sometimes. That sense of moving with the rhythm of the breath often can make things easier. And of course, you can pause anytime you want. You can rest anytime you want. Okay, and gradually reduce the movement to either side less and less and less until you feel like you're coming back into the middle of the movement, where it feels like some sort of relative neutrality. And it's relative because it keeps changing. And just rest for a moment and feel how you've affected yourself. Now, even though we've done a little bit of the first part of this lesson, we're going to change orientations again, and then the rest of the lesson after this will be back on the ground. But I want you to roll over to a side and very slowly make your way up to standing. Take your time. You can roll your legs one way, you can roll them the other, whatever you want, slowly taking your time to come up to standing. You can use something to steady yourself if you wish. Just coming up to standing. And when you come to standing, taking your time, feel the contact of your feet and look out into the space that you're in. You don't need to look at the screen at all. Just looking out into the space while you feel the contact of your feet and the way in which your weight comes through you into your feet. You can let your arms hang at your sides And particularly notice the contact of your feet and how you're seeing, that you're seeing surfaces and textures, and at the same time inhabiting or occupying a whole field of yourself, whatever that is, whatever yourself might even be. Just looking out into the space you're in, noticing what you see. Do you see a little to the left, to the right, up or down? Whatever you see is fine. And then slowly shift your weight over to the left leg and then come back to the center just a couple of times. You can let your arms hang at your sides if that's comfortable. You can hold them, whatever is comfortable for you. Just going to the left and coming back to the center. And then at some point, shifting over to the right and coming back to the center. And you're just giving your weight to each side. And then combine the two directions and weight shift over to the left and over to the right slowly. And notice how your seeing becomes involved with the weight shifting. Do your eyes just go along with what you're doing? Do they look into the movement a little? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. You're just checking it out. Notice if there's a difference giving your weight to one leg or the other. It could be a difference physically, like a sense of more direct contact or sinking into the leg, or it could be psychological in some way, more of a sense of security. And then gradually reduce the weight shifting less and less and less until you come back into the very center of the movement. And once again, just feel how your weight comes through you. Notice what you see, how you see. Notice the contact of your feet, where you feel the contact, and just inhabiting the whole field of yourself. And just to feel what that's like. And then when you're ready, once again, you can go back to lying down on the floor. We'll return to this weight shifting at the end of the lesson. You can go back to lying down. Take your time going down. You can roll onto your side first and then onto your back, really taking your time so you feel comfortable. Going onto your back. You can stretch out or have your knees up and feet flat, whatever's comfortable. And once again, just return to the natural rhythm of your breathing. Resting on the inhalation, the exhalation. Giving your weight to the surface you're on with the exhalation. Now slowly roll your head a little to the left and come back to your neutral starting position. So you're just letting your head roll a little. You don't have to go as far as you can. In fact, don't do that. Just to the place where it's easy to reverse. And as you do this, you'll feel the changing pressure contact on your skull. Just a few times. And notice as you roll your head to the left and come back to the center, there are other regions of yourself that are affected in very slight ways sometimes, but you can maybe feel a changing pressure contact in your left shoulder or your left ribs. And then come back to the center, Pause for a moment and roll your head a little to the right and come back to the center. Notice what it's like on this side. You'll feel the changing pressure contact once again. And maybe the side's different in some ways from the other side. And then come back to the center. And then combine the two directions. Just like you did with the tilting of the legs, now you're rolling your head a little to the left. You have a sense of reversing at a certain point, coming back through the center, going to the other side. And notice if there's a way to reduce the effort. Maybe you can let your jaw relax or let your eyes just be supported by your head to sink into your head. Maybe you harmonize this movement with the natural rhythm of your breathing. So you're making the movement of rolling easier, lighter. Perhaps you feel the effects of the movement in your spine or other regions of yourself. And you pause whenever you want to rest for a moment, that's fine. So you're just making the movement a little easier for yourself, a little lighter, a little less effort. You're still moving in a range that you like to explore. So that's up to you how big that range is. But the sense of just letting it be a little bit easier for yourself in some way, a little bit more comfortable, maybe even a little bit more interesting. And then come back to the center, doing less and less, coming back to the center. And now take the palm of your right hand and put it on your forehead. Relax the right shoulder. Let your head be totally passive and slowly move your head to the left and coming back to the center. But now your head is not doing the work. Your neck is not doing the work. It's your right arm, right hand, right side in some ways, and just rolling to the left a little, letting your head be passive and coming back to the center. Is there a way to let your neck, your spine, really relax into this so they do less work and you accommodate this movement into your breathing? Noticing how this movement might have ripple effects into the larger field of yourself. And then take your head to the right, again using your right hand and arm. Again, your head is passive. You can let your jaw relax. You can let your eyes relax. You can let all of yourself be supported and accommodating the movement into your breathing. Coming back to the center. And when you're ready, just combine the two directions. Again, letting your head be really passive. It's just going along for the ride. Of course, you'll feel the changing pressure contact on your skull. And you would accommodate this movement into the natural rhythm of your breath. Good. And then come back to the center, put the right hand down, pause for a moment, and take the left palm and put that on your forehead. And then slowly roll the head over to the right side and come back. And again, your feet can be in any position you want. Your legs can be outstretched. You can have your knees up and feet flat, whatever works for you. And accommodating the movement into your natural breathing. When you have a sense of rolling your head to the right, you can take it over to the left and just notice if there's anything different rolling your head with your other arm and hand. There might be, there might not be. Just checking it out. Good. And then take the arm down and once or twice just roll your head to the left and the right slowly without the use of your hands and notice if there's been any change or any improvement in the quality. Just checking it out. There might be a change, there might not be. It really doesn't matter. You're just checking it out. So now you've moved, you've become aware of these two regions of yourself lying down, of the legs and the pelvis in action, the head in action with the arms. Now let's see how these regions communicate with each other. So you can bring your knees up so your feet are flat. You find a comfortable position for your legs so your hip joints feel comfortable. And slowly tilt your legs as you did before to the left and to the right at a pace that works for you. Noticing where it's easy to reverse, where you can accommodate the movement into the natural rhythm of your breath, where it feels light and easy. And at some point as you do this, you want to let your head join into the movement and the direction of the legs. So as the legs tilt to the left, the head rolls a bit to the left. Again, you find a size for both movements, for the legs and for the head, so that you're opening up a channel of communication between your legs moving and your head moving. Right? And the size of the movement is really unimportant. You can feel the movement internally, regardless of the size. It's really just what works for you to make it easier and lighter and to start to sense how the movement of the legs and the hip and the movement of the head connect to each other in some way. There's a sense of connection through your torso and particularly through your spine. And you can harmonize this with your breathing. And as you do the movement, you might notice that certain other regions of yourself like to join in. There's a kind of invitation to the field of yourself. You might feel your ribs becoming involved, or your shoulders. You could feel your knees and feet participating. So in a certain way, you have a unification of movement. You're like a cylinder, and you're just noticing what's it like to feel unified in moving these regions together in harmony with your breathing. And then come back to the center and just pause for a moment. Reconnect with your breathing. Simply noticing the field of yourself again, inhabiting it. And then when you're ready, take your legs and your head in opposite directions. So as the legs tilt to the left, the head turns, rolls a little to the right. They both come back through the middle at the same time, and once again, go to opposite directions. Slow enough so you can feel each part of the movement. It's enjoyable. Notice what it's like to do contrasting movements. Typically, with a contrasting movement, what Feldenkrais called a differentiated movement, you'll feel some contrast within yourself. Something will highlight, some region will highlight with a contrast. Could be very small. So you're just experimenting with this differentiated movement, noticing how that affects you. And can you make this movement lighter and easier? Can you accommodate it to your breathing? And then come back to the center. The head and the legs come to the center. And once again, unify the movement. Tilt the legs and the head in the same direction. Notice if doing a differentiated movement, a contrasting movement, has affected the way in which you do a unified movement. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. You're just checking it out. Notice if other regions of yourself are being invited into this movement. And let them be invited. Let them participate. Maybe there's a particular part of the movement that's quite interesting, you become curious about. And then gradually do less and less and less on each side until you feel like you've come back into the middle again, that relatively neutral space where you could move in either direction easily, where you feel at rest in the middle. And then take a full rest. You can leave your knees up, feet flat, or have your legs outstretched, whatever is comfortable for you. And simply feel how you've affected yourself. You can open up to the whole field of yourself, inhabiting the whole field. You might notice that certain regions of yourself are being highlighted in or as your awareness. Or you might notice the general openness of the field, or the space, or the sense of sensations mixed in space. You might notice you feel like you're occupying some region of yourself more specifically than you did before. Whatever you notice is just fine. Or you might notice just generally not much other than your breathing. That's okay too. Just absorbing how you've affected yourself. We often take a lot of action in our lives, but we don't notice what happens when we don't take action and how we've affected ourselves. So this is just noticing that. Just absorbing, noticing the echoes and re-echoes. And now bring your knees up, feet flat once again, legs standing independently. Take hold of each opposite elbow. So your knees are up, your feet are flat. You're taking hold of each opposite elbow, so you're forming a little box. And raise that box so it's perpendicular to your chest and torso. So you're comfortable, and let your shoulders relax as you do this. Adjust your arms so your shoulders feel comfortable, supported by the surface. And now tilt your legs to the left and right slowly. Let your head participate with the tilting, and take the box in the direction of the tilting as well. Let your jaw relax, let your eyes relax, and notice that when you bring your torso into the movement pattern using your box, that you need to adjust in some ways to once again create a more unified, mutually influencing movement. So maybe the movement's a little smaller initially. And can you accommodate this movement into the natural rhythm of your breathing? And really let your jaw relax as you do this. Let your eyes relax. So you're just creating that synchronized, unified movement. When you have a sense of that, come back to the middle and just pause. Remember, you can rest anytime you want, even if I'm giving directions. And now take your head and legs in the same direction. Suppose they go to the left and the box to the right. So now you're using a differentiated movement. They all cross back through the middle at the same time and then go respectively to the other side. So once again, doing this differentiated movement, you'll probably feel a contrast in certain regions of yourself. Make the movement small enough so it feels light and easy, it's comfortable, it's interesting. You can accommodate it to your breathing. You can let this sense of participation of the different regions of yourself extend throughout the whole field of yourself. At some point, when you have a sense of this, you can come back into the middle again. And once again, you just pause for a moment and then do the unified movement again. All three regions are going in the same direction. And you can notice, has there been any change or any improvement, maybe, maybe not, in the way you do the unified movement? Has anything been added in any part of yourself that allows this movement to maybe be a little smoother or easier, or just something that's interesting to you? It's easier to accommodate to the breath. And you're just going back and forth in a unified way. Then you can put your arms down, one last movement. Now come back to the original movement. Your arms are just resting. You're just sensing how you've affected yourself. And once again, just tilting your legs to the left and to the right slowly, and playing with the range of the movement to notice what feels light and easy, and how does this movement of the legs tilting to the left and the right, how does that affect other regions of yourself now? Are there other regions that enjoy getting involved? Just noticing what's the new organization, if there is one. Nice. And then take a full rest. You can stretch out and relax if you want. You can have your legs in the current position, whatever works for you. You can even rest on your side if you want, whatever's comfortable. And when you rest, once again, just noticing the whole field of yourself. And if there's any region that's signaling you or highlighting itself in or as awareness, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Just absorbing how you've affected yourself. You can rest in the natural rhythm of your breath. Just absorbing, perceiving, feeling, being with whatever's occurring. With each exhalation, you can allow yourself to feel supported. You can let your jaw drop. You can let your eyes relax. You can feel your whole skeleton is just being supported by the surface that you're lying on. Okay, and one more variation. Bring your knees up, feet flat. Find a comfortable position so the legs can stand independently. And now bring both legs, if this is comfortable for you, over your chest. So you're bringing them up so the feet lift off the floor, the surface you're on. Put your hands under the knees of each leg. So you're holding the legs independently. And notice how your legs like to settle into your hip joints. Right? There's a way in which that can feel really comfortable for you. And slowly, in this position, taking your legs, and of course, everything else, a little over to the left and a little over to the right, but the legs are off the surface you're lying on, the feet are, and you're holding them and you're feeling the connection between the legs moving, your arms, and how your arms affect your shoulders and upper body. So here again, you have a total communication system between the upper parts of yourself, the lower parts of yourself, and once again, you're letting that movement of the legs affect the upper regions of yourself through your arms, through your spine, through your ribs, through your shoulders. You can rest whenever you want. And you're giving your back a little bit of a massage by the way in which you position your legs. Closer to your chest gives the upper part of your spine a massage, lower down, lower part. And you can put the legs down when you want. And last variation, you're just resting for a moment. Cross your left leg on top of your right leg at the knee if possible. Wherever you can cross is just fine. So your weight is on your right foot. And now slowly tilt your legs a little to the left and a little to the right. And notice what happens as you tilt in each direction to each side of your spine. Does tilting in one direction create a lengthening through your spine on the opposite side? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. You're not trying to make anything happen. But what's it like when you're focusing the tilting mostly through this one standing leg, and how does that affect either side of your spine? And how do the other regions of yourself like to get involved in this movement? Accommodate the movement to your breathing. Let your ribs and your head participate as they wish. And then come back to the center, uncross your legs. Cross the other leg on top, the right leg on top. Left leg, feel the contact of the left foot. And once again, tilting your legs to either side and noticing, for example, when you take your legs to the right side or the left side, how does that affect the opposite side of your spine? So if you go to tilting to the left, how does that affect the right side or the left side? Tilting the other way, just noticing the effect of the legs on either side of your spine. And of course, other regions of yourself participate as they do. Okay, and uncross your legs, have both legs standing. And one more time, just tilting the legs to the left and the right. And feeling, what's this movement like now? How does it distribute throughout the whole field of yourself? Are there any regions that have become involved that participate now? And then take a rest, a full rest, and return once again to the sense of if you were dipped into a bottle of ink and blotted on a page, what kind of ink impression would you make now? Has your map of your contact changed in any way? Is your map any different? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Are there regions that have made more contact where there's more ink? And when you attune to the field of yourself, what's that experience like now? Are you inhabiting other regions of yourself that you didn't before, in or as awareness? Maybe, maybe not, just checking it out. Is there a sense of aliveness in other regions that there might not have been before? Maybe, maybe not. And then slowly, you can bring your knees up, feet flat, and roll from side to side. And get a sense of which side you want to eventually roll onto. And then slowly make your way towards standing. You might want to crawl around a little bit. You might want to just make your way to sitting first and pause there. That's fine. Really take your time getting up. Can you get up and use what you learned in this lesson to make getting up to becoming more vertical so that it's easier for you? You get more support. You can experiment. You don't have to get up quickly. Right? You can really take your time. Experiment. What do you want to do? What kinds of movement patterns do you like doing? And then when you do eventually get up, again, taking your time, let your arms hang at your sides. Feel how your weight comes through you. Look out into your room. Notice if the contact through your feet has changed in any way. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. Notice if the way you see is changed in any way. When you feel the contact of your feet and you look out into the space you're in, what's your gaze like? Your seeing like now? And then slowly shift your weight onto the right leg, the left leg. Notice how your seeing becomes involved with this. Has anything changed in the weight shifting or the way in which you give your weight to your legs? Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. You're just checking it out. And gradually reduce the weight shifting until you come to the middle of that weight shifting, which you might call a relatively neutral place in the middle. Notice when you're standing in this relative neutrality and looking out and noticing what's that like now to inhabit the field of yourself this way? What's it like to let everything come to you? That is, to receive it into the field of yourself. So your senses are not trying to grasp onto anything. They're just in this welcoming, totally receptive mode, just receiving into this whole field of yourself, your body, mind, everything. So you're just resting into the field of yourself. And then when you're ready, you can just walk around and explore the area you're in and notice what's it like to inhabit yourself this way, to look around, to be curious, to see. What are you drawn to? What are you attracted to looking at? What do you notice? Yeah, let yourself see what you're seeing and then feel what you're perceiving in the whole field of yourself. Notice how your whole sense of being embodied receives the space and everything that appears. Just taking it in whatever way you do that. Okay, and then let's find a seat and we can just momentarily check in. We'll take a little break after we check in. So when you're just sitting here, once again, just occupying or inhabiting this field of yourself, again, quite naturally, nothing that you're not doing all the time anyway. What's it like just sitting here and receiving everybody once again, just that sense of being here together? But from this sense of the field of yourself, right? However that is for you after this lesson. Here we are. And once again, I'm going to leave a little space for checking in. We'll check in a little bit, then we'll take a little bio break and come back for a final meditation. But while the experience is fresh, just wanted to see what kinds of insights, observations, anything you notice. You might not want to say anything too. That's perfectly fine. Just anything you noticed sometimes is useful for other people to hear as well.
Hi.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi. I want to say that when I first started, it was very painful for me to even get into a position laying down. And I propped myself up in whatever ways I could. And then when I first started, I got some really sharp pain and I couldn't believe it, but truly by the end of it, I was able to move my legs back and forth just a few inches, but it was a revelation to me. Um, but when I did the get my arms up into the box, I have neuropathy and a pinched nerve, and I couldn't seem to do that very much. So I did have to stop and rest. And when I stood up, I have sciatic pain on my left. Then I had this, I'm still I had tingling and numbness all the way down to my foot. So I have a question. The question is, so when I get that kind of pain, like in the box, it was right for me to just stop.
Absolutely.
Should I try to do that again?
No.
Okay.
Just remember,
Thank you.
whenever you get any pain, that's a signal too much.
Okay.
So you just stop. If you want, you can imagine doing the movement. That'll work too.
Okay.
Yeah. Or whenever you have any pain, it's too much. You stop, don't do it. That's a signal too much. Go to imagining the movement or do sometimes what works for people is doing the first 1% of the movement.
Okay.
So the 1%, the first 1 or 2% is about to move and backing away.
Okay.
And that can be really useful because it's below the threshold of triggering anything, but you still feel the activation and how you organize yourself to do that.
Thank you. That's very helpful for me.
Yeah, for any movement where it seems difficult, do the first 1%, the about to do it and back away.
Okay.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other observations? Yes, Rachel.
Um, well, I'm finding it s- just exceptional, like how this practice is um integrating, letting me integrate. So that's one thing I'll say. I'm almost having like, I'm like, how do I step into the world after this? Which is interesting. And I can even sense I'm sitting up and I'm already reorganizing into the way that I will enter the world. So it's
Hmm.
like, oh, um, I'm noticing my breath when I was on my back, just focusing on, and it was the initiation. I started to really focus on, like, I was thinking of a fern, like the slowest amount of unfurling. I mean, just that almost pause be before you even, and it's like it wasn't even doing it. It was like, how can I just maybe drop pressure in one place to let the movement go to the other place?
Yep.
It was just extraordinary. I felt my breath drop. I felt my belly relax in a way that I feel like it hasn't in 4 years. I've had two children in 4 years. It was just like, oh my gosh, like this is possible. So, um, very powerful. I'll leave it there, but just like so powerful for me.
Mm, mm, mm. Right. Well, I'm glad that the possibilities it sounds like for that kind of movement, but also that way of being yourself, inhabiting yourself, that opened up in that. Yeah. And I think something I want to highlight in what you're saying is, like when you do a lesson, sometimes it has a very far-reaching effect because less is more in this system. And something you said there was really particularly, I resonate to it, having done this for many years. Sometimes there's the slightest little movement or the sense of intentionality to just begin to do something and come back into neutrality is so rich and so far reaching that it reorganizes your whole system just doing that. Like the enoughness of just perceiving that potential opening up through you. And so there's a lot of reorganization that starts happening. Even though we're doing so little, there's a lot of reorganization. One of the best ways to integrate a lesson, and a lesson like this, which we're combining with meditation, often has a ripple effect throughout the day. It's like you'll be walking, you go, wow, I see the sky in a different way, or now I'm noticing light differently, or now I'm noticing my sense of being vertical is different. So that'll happen, and that's nice. And you don't have to try to keep anything because it's all reprogramming your organism. But one thing that really helps with this after a lesson, which I'm going to invite you to do afterwards, is just walk around for 10 or 15 minutes and let everything go. It seems that walking really integrates change as well. It's partly being upright in gravity again. Right, and I see you're doing movement patterns. You'll just notice there are certain kinds of things that start flowing through you movement-wise, and you realize, gee, that's really connecting. That feels really great internally in my organs or in my spine or my ribs or my visual field. So a lesson is very evocative. It starts to initiate organization, and then when you walk around and let it go, it just normalizes a bit, but you'll feel the ripple effects. Yeah. So nothing to keep, no big deal. It just integrates in its own way. Just wanted to add that. Yes, Margaret.
Hi, I've never, well, I think I've done Feldenkrais in the past, but I'm not sure. But I'm having some problems with the language.
Yeah.
I don't know what reorganizing your system means, for one. And the other one I've had a problem with is when you say all you have to do is imagine it and it's the same as doing it. I don't understand those at all.
Okay. Sure. So, yeah,
Appreciate that. Thank you.
sure. I'll say something. So reorganize or organizing is, I'm using that in a very practical way. It's like when you reach out to pick up a cup, you have a cup in your hand and you reach out to pick it up, you need to organize that action, right? It happens pretty automatically, unless you've had some neurological issue or something. We just do it, but that's a form of organizing action. You're taking action to do something, right? So throughout the lesson, we're doing these movement patterns. Some of them are normal in a sense, they're typical, but some are atypical. They're not stereotypic. For example, introducing contrasting motions. That's a little strange. And when your body experiences differences, novelty in movement, new possibilities that, they might not seem extraordinary, but they're different, it prompts a slight reorganization in how you do something. So you may have noticed when you did the contrasting movements and then you come back to the unified movement, maybe it's a little bit different in my ribs. Something's reorganized to make it easier through my mid body. That's what I mean by reorganization.
Mhm. Okay.
Does that clarify it a bit?
That helps, yeah, a bit.
A bit. Still something missing on that?
Yeah, I don't think I can add anything. I think I need to think about it or do my
Okay.
own.
Yeah.
What's
And
the
then
important?
the visualizing aspect, that's been long sort of studied with athletes and particularly in sports. And I guess what the research shows is that when you visualize doing something, it still activates your sensory motor system. So which this method is very involved with, is the sensory motor system of the body. So visualizing it initiates a kind of action pathway in your brain and your whole system, but without having to actually physically do the action. It's like you're rehearsing the action internally. And I guess there's been a fair amount of research in sports that when people do that, they actually get improvements when they actually are doing the physical action. So that's been integrated into the Feldenkrais method, particularly when it's difficult or painful to do a movement. Just imagine it.
And where are you physically in the world?
I'm in Oakland, California.
How do you find a good Feldenkrais teacher?
Um, you can go to the Feldenkrais Guild. Just search for Feldenkrais Guild, and they'll have a page on their website that's find a practitioner. Put in your area code. You'll find a lot of people probably. Which area are you in?
Outside Boston, Newton,
Oh,
Mass.
there's tons of people. Yeah. And you can look at different people have different specialties of what they do. Some are really into rehab, some are physical therapists as well as Feldenkrais practitioners, some are doctors. It's all over the map.
So any
And
guidance as to what to look for since there's so many tools?
well, I think people who've had a longer amount of time playing with it. I mean, it helps when you've put in a couple years doing it, I think.
Mhm.
And then talking to people and where you make contact with somebody and ask them how they work with you given the specific thing that you want to work on. If they're familiar with it, if they've done that before, how they like to work with that, just like you're interviewing a practitioner for something.
Okay. And is it helpful for arthritis? And then I'll be quiet.
Yeah, sure. I mean, my experience, of course, it varies individually for everyone, right? So no one thing works for everyone. But my experience, I've been doing this for 30 years. It's pretty good for aging in general.
Mhm.
Um, and it's really good for it's good for creating greater ease, uh,
Yeah.
physically, psychologically. Because the whole gist of it is you're moving into playing with ways of being that are easier for your system, more comfortable. So you're encouraging that.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah. So we will end with a little meditation. I skipped the bio break, but we will end. Anything else anyone wants to say about this? I mean, it is helpful to hear your questions because I think other people sometimes have those questions or comments.
If no one else has anything, I can ask you one more thing.
Sure, sure, sure.
Doing the exercises where we're doing them all on the same side and then we switch to one part of the body going the other way. I found that in my brain very confusing. I would do it part of the time and then I would fall off, and it was a real challenge for me. Can you say something about that?
Sure, because that's not a typical movement pattern. You're
Mm,
doing something that's contrasting to most movement patterns that we feel really comfortable with are unified patterns, like everything moving together. That's easier in a certain way. But when you throw in the differentiated pattern, the contrast pattern, you're interrupting your normal patterning. You're, um, yeah, you're just creating a difference and it's sort of like, that's weird. That's strange. That's not usual. And that creates in a little bit of a constraint for your system because you don't typically do it. But it gets your whole organism to pay attention in a slightly different way. It's like, huh, how do you do that? It's like a little puzzle you've thrown in. Feldenkrais called this using constraints. And when you do that, your whole system starts to problem solve. Like, okay, how do I deal with that constraint? It's like when you have an injury. I injure my shoulder. I can't use that anymore. It's my dominant hand. And I'm so used to picking up a cup, but I can't do that during the rehabilitation of the injury, and I have to use the other hand. It just doesn't feel normal. It's not habitual. But I'll adapt to doing it and I'll learn something new. I'll have to deal with a new form of organizing that action.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's okay to feel like this is weird. I don't know. I mean, we used to do things in the training sometimes where some constraints, and I just think, no, I'm not going to do this. This is too weird. Like moving this, but not moving that. I don't see how that's possible. But then I played with it and it was sort of like, yeah, I guess it is possible. Yes, Suzanne.
So you speak a little bit more about the benefits of the neuroplasticity from the physical movement.
Yes.
So what? I'm not competing.
Yeah, no, so just in general, like particularly one of the benefits of the neuroplasticity, there's a handout that everybody should have or be able to get. Maybe it was emailed or was put in the chat. That's got a lot of resources on it. It has my class on it. In case you want to contact me, you can just email me to get on I do a virtual class every Wednesday. Um, it's got different YouTube videos with this Dr. Norman Deutsch, who wrote a book called The Brain That Changes Itself and the Brain's Way of Healing that goes into neuroplasticity and Feldenkrais. The benefit is that we typically get into habit patterns in the way we move, the way we think, um, the way we act, those repetitive patterns, which is natural. We need to do that. We have to develop habits to do things. But as you get older or as you face new challenges, physically or psychologically, you need to update your habits. And that's where the neuroplasticity comes in. That you try different things, you introduce novelty. The effect of the neuroplasticity is you start to reorganize, remap a habit. And that's particularly useful with aging, where the habits can become restrictions. You see this sometimes in the way people walk. Their instability starts to become more pronounced because they're in this habit pattern of walking, which has become constricting. It worked when you were younger, maybe, but as you get older, it's too limiting. So the neuroplasticity, which is all about what happens in Feldenkrais, that helps you to reorganize, to update the habit, to find something that works more effectively, that's new. And you can keep doing that throughout your entire life. I've seen this. I mean, most people who I work with, people of all different ages, people in their 90s doing this, and it just feels great. It's a way to keep updating. And there are thousands of Feldenkrais lessons you can do for every part of the body. So you can play with any region you want to start to gain more possibility in. Of course, I'm very biased because I like this and do it a lot, but it seems to work. Okay, we're getting close to the end. If there is another question, that's good. If not, I'll just go to a little meditation and we can end on that. Any last thing you want to? No? Good. All right, so we did a lot today. There'll be ripple effects for you. If you have any further questions, you want to be in touch, my email is on that handout. In case you don't have it, it's com options, com options at Gmail. Com options. You can just email me and I can be in touch and suggest resources. And if you're interested in my class, Wednesdays, it's a drop-in, there's no fee. Yes, Margaret.
And on that sheet, the sign up for the class doesn't work. It says page not found.
Oh, okay, that's not good. Email me. My
Okay.
email's on there, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Email me and just say you want to be in the class, and I'll send you all the information for it, and that'll
Thank,
get you on.
thank you.
Yeah. And it's 4:30 Pacific time usually on Wednesdays. And there are recordings from the class too that you can always use as well. I record everything. So just as a way to end, and I really appreciate you all being here and doing this and trying this out. It's really always fun to it's really fun to explore this with folks. Just once again, just come to the sense of the whole field of yourself. Again, in a very natural way, that sense of just being aware of the presence of the whole body-mind system and inhabiting it in a sense of you normally are, of course, occupying or inhabiting it, but this way you're also really aware of just the sense of being the presence of this whole field, which is happening all the time throughout the day, but you're just being this field and resting in the space of yourself. Again, however you do that. And you can sometimes feel the sense of the breath simply moving through the space of yourself in a very natural, easy way. And that space expanding, contracting with the movement of the breath. So in a certain sense, you're almost in the very center of yourself through the breath. Again, in a very natural way. And simply noticing what appears, letting everything occur as it does, being that sense of the welcoming of whatever's arising in this entire field. And, the sense of you might be quite localized, it might be diffuse, it might be very unbounded, whatever. Whatever you notice is just fine. It's a constantly shifting field of being. And from that space, maybe we can just receive each other, acknowledge each other, send each other a sense of appreciation, loving kindness. May everyone be happy. May all beings be happy. May everyone feel peaceful, free from suffering. Feel a sense of the possibilities of connection in a open-hearted way. Just really being in the space together, which we are being in the space together quite naturally. And just letting that emanate out everywhere in all directions and receiving everyone in this common space of ourselves. Okay, may you all have a good rest of the day. Again, thanks for being here. Really appreciate being with you in this way.